think the light might be bright.
Good evening. I'm Janet Anderson. Welcome to a new year. I call to order the Town of Lewisboro Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. So for everyone, the exit is the way you came in. The exits to my left are for emergencies only. In order to comply with the open meetings law, we must meet in person. We do not have the capability for the public to attend by Zoom, nor can we stream our meeting to YouTube. However, we will post an audio recording of this meeting to the town website, and all the materials considered at this meeting are available in the agenda packet, which was posted. Members of the public can always express their views by mail or email to planning@lewisborony.gov. Kirsten Conrad, our Planning Board Administrator, has confirmed that the meeting has been duly noticed and legal notice requirements fulfilled. Joining me tonight from the Town of Lewisboro are members of the Planning Board, Paul Fusco, John Guzmano, Charlene Delicato, and Bruce Thompson. We do have a quorum, and thus we can conduct the business of the board and vote on any matters that come before us. We also have our consultant, Jan Johannesson from KSCJ, and Council Judd Siebert, Planning Board Administrator Kirsten Conrad, and we don't have anybody from the CAC. Okay. So with that, the first item on our agenda tonight is an extension of time request. This is calendar number 03-13PB, calendar number 03-16WP, and calendar number 19-21SW, Silvermine Preserve. So we did get a memo from Jerry Tortorella. I never say that right. And who gave us an update on the status. We know that KSCJ Consulting does a weekly inspection. Kirsten let me know that the escrow is paid up, and we have received the first of 4 recreational fee payments. So, and the request was for one 90-day extension of time till May 12th, 2025. So, unless anybody has any questions, I thought the memo was pretty complete.
And I also received from Jerry yesterday updated versions of all of the documents to be recorded that we've been working on, so this is all moving in the right direction.
So if there's no other comments, you move for it.
I move for the extension of time. This calendar 03-13PB.
Okay. Seconded by John. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Easy. Okay. Second item on our agenda is calendar number 06-17PB, calendar number 43-23WP, calendar number 18-23SW. So I generally try to go through some of the times that this has been here before us, but this has been here before us a lot. So I'm just going to say we do have a resolution to consider. So perhaps, Jan, if you want to hit the highlights for us.
Just bringing it up.
Okay.
Okay, this is a resolution for special use permit, site development plan approval, wetland permit, and town stormwater permit. It's for the Wolf Conservation Center is proposing a private nature preserve, which is a special permit use in the underlying zone. The resolution provides a thorough description of the proposed action and makes reference to the negative declaration of significance that the board issued on June 20th. Makes reference to the preliminary and final subdivision plan approval that the board approved on November 21st, 2023. Area variances granted by the ZBA on March 27th, 2024. Gives a thorough description of all the site improvements, including the water and wastewater facilities and stormwater management practices that are being proposed by the applicant, all in compliance with the town, state, and DEP regs. Let's see. It makes reference to wetland mitigation plan that was prepared in compliance with the code, that provides one-to-one, or over one-to-one mitigation. The DEC issued a wetland permit on April 4th, 2024. ACARC issued their approvals on October 11th, 2023. There was an analysis completed by Planning Board Council regarding an existing FAA easement for a tower that's off-site. That evaluation is included in the resolution. The application was referred to South Salem Fire Department. The resolution makes reference to their review memo. That the application was referred to the Westchester County Planning Board in accordance with 239M of the General Municipal Law, and that the county's comments were addressed. The public hearing was opened on November 21st, 2023, adjourned to multiple meetings, and ultimately closed on April 16th, 2024. The site plan drawings prepared by BIBO. The list of drawings are included in the resolution, referred to as the approved drawings, as is their stormwater pollution prevention plan. The applicable sections of the zoning code that relate to special permit use, private nature preserve is included, and the applicant's business plan that helps demonstrate compliance with those regs. Getting to the conditions, as is typical, there's a series of conditions to be satisfied during various stages. The first is prior to the signing of the site plans, and that's obtaining all outside agency approvals. As I mentioned, ACARC's been approved, the zoning board has granted their variances, the DEP has granted their SWIP approval, the DEC has granted their freshwater wetland permit. The only real outstanding approvals, which are conditioned on the resolution, are the health department for the water supply and the septic, and the state DOT permit for improvements in the right-of-way. Prior to the signing of the plans, of the site plans, the final subdivision plat will be signed simultaneously. There's a engineering inspection fee that will be supplied. There's a bond in that same amount that's supplied for site work only. There's the preparation of the stormwater maintenance easement agreement, although the filing of that document would be prior to the issuance of the CO, but just to get the document prepared and reviewed by council. That's a condition prior to signing of the site plan. And then the remainder of the conditions prior to the issuance of the building permit and during construction really pro forma, just following the plans and resolution. Prior to the issuance of a CO, the typical conditions regarding as-built surveys and certifications from the design engineer, that the water storage tank is installed and tested by the fire department or a third party, things of that nature. Other conditions, just I'll call them use conditions or special use permit conditions, is compliance or continued compliance with their business plan, which is dated March 1st, 2023. Compliance with the special use permit regulations pertaining to this use, and the zoning code sections are stated. That there's no parking or standing of vehicles or buses along Route 35. That's the whole purpose of the project. And that the underground water storage tank to be used for fire suppression shall be maintained by the applicant, including ensuring that the tank is filled with water, conducting annual flow tests, and that the fire department have use of that tank for training purposes with 14 days notice to the applicant.
Great. Any questions for Jan? Okay, I'd look for a motion to adopt the resolution as just described.
I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution.
I second.
Seconded by Charlene. Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I know it's been a long journey.
Say thank you to the board and your professional staff and consultants, as I mentioned before. I think we've been here probably for about 25 years with different iterations of trying to get this finished, acquiring new properties and everything. So we very much appreciate your patience. I know my partner Al Del Bello is looking down on us right now and smiling that this is finished because he was a huge proponent in advance. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Can't wait to see it
Good
when
luck,
it's done.
yeah, so on to the next steps, right?
Yeah.
So,
Think of champagne.
That works.
all right. Well, when it's done, we'll all get to come and visit, right? Maybe we'll do a tour. Okay, the next item on our agenda, the site development plan review. Well, this is actually a decision again, I think, calendar number 03-20PB, calendar number 37-20WP, Gossip Brothers Nursery, 1202 Route 35, South Salem, New York. This is a really, they had a previous wetland activity permit that expired, but there was also significant upgrades and additions. So we do have a resolution for this. And Jan, again, perhaps you can hit the highlights.
Sure, this is site development plan approval. As you mentioned, the applicant did apply also for a wetland permit. This resolution, as discussed, makes the wetland permit administrative activity that my office will pick up post-approval of the resolution. So this resolution is focused on the site development plan, makes reference to the prior approval. This is basically the same exact action with some changes. The major change being that the prior iteration was more of a renovation and expansion of the existing building, where during construction the building was demolished and reconstructed, primarily in the same place. And I'll point out that the building permit that was issued was for exactly what was built. There was just some miscommunication between the planning board and the building department, so there was no, malice there or anything. It was
Right.
just some confusion. But the primary intent of the prior approval is the same. The footprint is very, very similar. I think there was less than 100 square feet additional impervious surface. There was no additional stormwater mitigation that was needed. The wetland mitigation is primarily a replanting around the existing pond. That is all the same. So with that, I think the only significant changes would be to the lighting plan, because the lighting was basically approving the existing lighting that was on the old building, which was like floodlights, things of that nature. This building is going to have more contemporary lighting, gooseneck lighting, down lighting, much more compliant with the code. So that is, I think everything is probably a benefit when you look at it. But this more or less legalizes what the building permit was issued for and what's out there today. We, I think, made all of the wetland permit is going to be issued by my office. There was no stormwater permit that didn't hit that threshold. So I think that the conditions are really, there's not a whole lot to do prior to the signing of the plan. I think there was a couple minor revisions. The ACARC approval, I wasn't sure if that was issued, so there's no modifications there. Our office will issue the wetland permit. There's not an additional, no changes that are needed to the plan. We'll just issue that permit in course. The plans will eventually get signed and the conditions to be satisfied prior to the signing of or after the signing of the plans or special use permit conditions or site development plan conditions are exactly as they were, although we made reference to the business plan dated September 24th, 2020. That was really for the winery,
Right.
that they're tied to that business plan. So it's more or less a very similar resolution as you previously approved with the minor change to the site.
Great. Any questions for Jan?
Straightforward.
So I'd look for a motion to approve or to adopt the resolution as just described.
I so move.
Charlene, and Bruce seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Well, thank you.
Painless.
And I do agree that seems like a better, it's a better situation now.
Get that resolution thrown in so we can see what needs to be modified and resubmit.
Excellent.
Okay?
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Thanks for coming out in the cold. Okay, the next item on our agenda, well, I'm going to actually add something, and this is, we recently got information from Richfield about a referral from Richfield essentially about a proposed moratorium. Their public hearing is actually tonight, so, but I guess it possibly could stay open. Generally, we send a no comment letter back to the town board, and the town board then lets Richfield know, but so, yeah, so I guess I'd look for a motion permitting me to sign a letter on behalf of the board to the town board saying we have no comment on this.
So move.
Okay,
Second.
seconded by John. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Oh, and I can sign it already.
It's fast. They're waiting outside the door for it.
I'll drive it over.
Although from some of the comments on the website, it might be a long hearing, who knows? All right. The next item really is the continued review of the proposed zoning amendments. So as we told you, a small group, Charlene, me, Jan, Judd, and Christian
Gates.
from his office met on both January 7th and January 8th, and we went through pretty much all of the codes, not quite line by line, but close to it. And updated a number of things, kind of got some clarification, and perhaps, Judd, you could talk about what's happening next with that.
Yeah, so actually, and to clarify, just so we're all clear, we had decided to do a kind of a page turn. So Jan, Charlene, Jan, myself, Christian from my office, and thank goodness for Christian, because beyond kind of his code capability, he's technically capable of putting this stuff, into red line form. We met on Tuesday the 7th here at the town offices, and we were here the whole day. We resumed with 2 Zoom sessions last week on the 14th and 15th.
Oh, I was wrong.
Yeah, both of which went, I would say, maybe 4 hours. We started with, we went through each of the codes. The real meat of it was Chapter 220, the zoning code. And the result of that is a red line that I've informally advised the town board is going to be presented for its review, as the kind of the product of the planning board review. It incorporates, the various things we discussed in the kind of pre-referral meeting that we had, and also if you recall, there were some big item issues that we had presented to the, like the home profession piece, and all of those with Charlene and Jan and Jan and input from our office. We just kind of like tried to fold it into what we think is where the board is. So where is that? Now the task is getting the paper put together. Spoke to, or emailed with Kerry Wolf this morning, Tony's assistant, spoke with Valerie Monastera from Nelson Pope Voorhees, the outside consultant. The town board's going to have a work session on February 10th and we will submit on Friday the red lines of all of the code sections. That will all be sent out to each of the board members at the same time. So you're going to have 2 weeks, basically between Friday and this February 10th work session to kind of look at it. It'll all be highlighted. And when I say highlighted, it's like some of this is, it's not necessarily manually, but because of like glitches with redlining and compare right and what we have, we're trying to make this as easy to kind of understand as possible. For example, just like a couple of examples. Structurally, when we looked at the current local law, we realized like the wireless code provision has all a set of standalone definitions, but yet there are still definitions that relate to the wireless law in the initial definitions for the code.
The main body, yeah.
We want to drop all of those in one place. If you recall, there was a discussion with regard to the wetland changes of trying to move those appendices that deal with delineation and mitigation into the code itself. That's being done, and we're trying to kind of code, when you read through it, like we're trying to code this so that when you see that something's being deleted or moved, it's not like it's going away.
Right, you
It's
know where it's
just,
been
it's
moved to.
like, and so it's kind of, it's just, it's a little cumbersome, that's all.
I think we can figure it out.
So, yeah, I think you'll figure it out. So, again, bottom line is, Friday, we're gonna be sending this out, look at it, and I think the best thing to do would be between Friday and February 10th, if there are any comments by individual board members, I would get them to Jan and to Kirsten, and we'll go from there by email. In terms of what I call kind of like if there's been any kind of hot button or kind of like something that apparently is like people are focusing on, it's on the excavation and fill code and the different parameters that we were talking about. Keep in mind that apparently at a town board meeting, a lot of folks showed up and were concerned without reading the code and recognizing that you start with an exemption for basic construction activity, foundations, pools, et cetera, up to a threshold. And they were focused on that initial threshold of, and the initial was like
Well,
15 square feet.
I don't think the town board and the public hasn't seen the recommend.
No, so we were
okay.
talking recommendation of lifting that to 60. That was kind of and I think maybe tonight we want to talk about that, whether the 60 is still
A little low.
a little low.
Yeah, so how the red line version that you'll see from our collective work would be, you need a planning board excavation and fill permit. If you hit, right now originally it was 15 cubic yards, which isn't, not even a full truckload.
Right.
You know, a typical triaxle is going to be 20 yards. So 15 was really, really low. Right now it's at 60, maybe tonight we'll talk about even increasing it more. So that would be a requirement for a planning board excavation and fill permit, unless you have a permit, a building permit, or are going to get a building permit from the building inspector for any kind of project for a structure, and there's just grading that takes place because we're building a new house with a basement and a pool. So if you're getting a building permit, you're exempt,
Exempt.
so long as you're not going over 1,500 cubic yards. We came up with 1,500 cubic yards because we thought you could build your typical house with a 2,000 square foot footprint, a nice large home with a full basement and an in-ground swimming pool and some ancillary grading, and you still typically wouldn't hit that threshold unless you were doing something kind of bananas, and then you would probably want to see it. So I think the idea was to try to capture the projects that were something that you should have your eyes on. If somebody's dumping 100 yards of fill in their property that has nothing to do with any sort of other permit, you might want to know about it. Whether that's 60 or 100 or 150 or 200, that's a policy decision, but let's try to capture the permits that nobody has their eyes on because there's not a building permit. And those really large projects that are kind of not typical. So that was the idea there.
So I did go and look at a number of different town codes and tried to figure out, and one, for example, I think Bedford says if you come into the planning board, you can get a waiver if it's under 100 cubic yards. Well, we don't want them coming in. We want to just say, I looked at a couple of other places, and one of the things that they did say, and I want to go back and look at our local law on this, or a proposed law, is that you could do a lot of this, but they had restrictions that said you can't put it in a wetland, you can't do that. I think that's all in our,
Yeah,
That would trigger the
I think it would be
wetlands
covered
requirements.
by their wetlands, but they actually put it into the excavation code itself, and I was just, it's duplicative, right? I just wanted to ask about that, because it seemed like, why were they doing it?
Maybe because
They don't have a
depending on the
wetland,
community, they might not have a wetland code.
or they might not have a good wetland code, yeah. Okay. That is a good answer, because I was like, wait, I don't think we put all this stuff in. The other thing that I noticed one had is you can't create a grade of greater than 15% slope.
That's really restrictive.
Yeah, so,
I think what is probably in this code, if I venture to guess, and I confirm is 50%. So like 2 on 1 would be the maximum proposed slope, unless it's stabilized with rock or something, because you're just not going to be able to grow vegetation on something that's steeper than 2 on 1.
right. So,
The recommendations usually, I mean, if you can get away with 15%, that'd be great, but I think it's not.
Most of the properties in this town are already more than 15%.
Yeah.
right, yes.
For clarification, excavation and fill, we're just talking about fill coming on site, correct?
Or being trucked
Both.
off.
Or, pardon?
Or being trucked off. Excavation.
Oh, yeah,
or
okay,
fill.
okay. But it's leaving the site. But your excavated material isn't what's counting. In other words, to dig the basement, and that's
No, it's import or export, leaving the site,
leaving the site, okay.
not the balance. So you could do a lot of, you can balance your site. But if it's coming in or leaving, that's where,
Are we, and then making a distinction between fill and topsoil?
that should be, although, I mean, if you're getting 60 yards or 100 yards of topsoil, you don't. Or somebody saying, oh, no,
I'm
this is
thinking,
topsoil.
I'm talking about it leaving the site.
Oh,
There's no
oh, right.
restriction. I'm thinking about it leaving.
Right,
I,
you had
for
made
one,
that
have
point.
never, whatever, topsoil is so precious, it should be staying on the site, period. And the
It
other
doesn't
thing
make
is
any,
that, isn't it easier to see this in terms of how large is the property? I mean, 60 yards on a 5,000 square foot lot is humongous. But on a, 2 acre or a 3 acre lot, it's not that much. It's hard, my point is, I'm just trying to.
These are policy decisions. but,
Yeah, these are,
Yeah.
well,
It's
because
still 5 truckloads of material.
It's-
Something's happening on the site. Do you want to know where that soil's coming from? That's the main
Right.
objective, right? Is like, you don't want contaminated fill coming out of the site.
Construction.
You want to know where it's coming from. Right now, there's no checks and balances on that.
so,
the code section also doesn't break out like fill versus topsoil, it doesn't even break out whether it's mulch or gravel or anything like that.
there is something in there about flammable materials. I mean, so there's
Right, but I'm just thinking like for,
Right.
if someone's mulching for the season, if they have a big property like you're saying, Bruce,
Right.
you could use way more than that. I mean, or if someone has a really long gravel driveway and they're just top dressing it with gravel, they could use more. And
I
I don't
think-
think
I
that
think-
Yeah, but
was-
we have exceptions for that.
Yeah, I think
right?
I think a driveway is exempt.
If you're building a building
If
permit.
it's processed material.
I mean, if I'm wrong, that's great, but that's
Trying to find, the version I have, I'm looking for definitions, and I'm not finding them. Is there separate definitions for,
I gotta look for them.
No, there are not. It would be,
so we have to see if the, like, fill is defined in the zoning. I was
But-
thinking earthen materials.
Which, I agree, I was concerned that it's almost too broad, that's what I was nervous about, because then
Yeah.
if it's like regular maintenance on, I mean, if people were bringing in, instead of chemical
Well, this says
fertilizer, they wanna bring
prohibited
in
actions.
compost.
In B1 prohibited is there's no processing of, what's processing?
Yeah, that was like,
You don't want anybody processing.
Yeah.
Permit.
Why not?
They have a big machine and they're processing without a permit, you typically want to know if they're going to have that.
If
kind
you've
of
got
operation.
material on the site, it's native, it's right there on the site.
I'm not saying that you can't, but, I mean, there's county regulations about processing fill, bringing the machines to tear it. I mean,
I'm not, okay, I'm not talking Phil.
yeah.
Okay, so I think what we want to get to is, do we as a group want to take that 15 up, that has been taken to 60 up higher? And I had kind of I thought 15 was about a truck. Now knowing, and I was thinking, okay, so 60 is 4 trucks. If it's only 3 trucks only, but it kind of quantitatively, I guess I'd be okay with 100, I don't know.
I need to know the definition, like, because
Yeah,
we're so wide.
I think that.
I also, like I'd mentioned the first time, I feel like there needs to be a time associated with, because if it's per instance, then you could bring 60 multiple days. You could
Right.
bring, I don't know if it's per month, per year, I think there needs to be a time associated with it.
John,
project, I think.
When will the red line be ready? Because I think
Friday, they
in
said.
order to really talk about it, we have to know what we're talking about.
yeah,
so we can-
Friday.
yeah.
Okay, and if you look at it and we give our recommendations to Jen, I think that would be easier. So
Yeah.
you can look around and see what the definitions and what everything is. Because off the top of my head, I don't remember,
I
each
don't
and
think there's
every.
definitions.
There's not, yeah,
So we have to look at,
So,
there may be definitions in zoning.
that we could pull into this.
Yeah, I can look at,
Is this in zoning?
No.
No,
no, this is 115,
Yeah, so we have to go through that.
yeah. Okay,
But I agree, yeah, let's read it, and then we can always
Right.
feedback.
right. So that's that.
And I just want to underscore that February 10th meeting is a work session.
Yeah.
So this is an evolving process, we don't want to, input's better on the front end than
Right.
afterwards.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what makes it a work session, I think, is are they going to leave the public hearing open to that
Yeah,
period?
yeah,
Okay,
yes, yeah.
good. So,
Yeah.
because I know they're meeting
27th, a week.
the 27th, next week, so.
Right.
So then they would hold that public hearing open until at least the work session. Okay,
There is also an exemption for existing lawns and gardens and kind of maintenance of your
Oh,
existing
okay.
Yeah.
So that does,
facility, so that might,
that's where,
maybe
yeah,
we slip driveway in there or something. I'm just thinking, I know there are a lot of
Yeah, I
gravel
think
driveways,
what-
I have a gravel driveway, so I can.
my intent wasn't gravel.
Right.
I was thinking earthen materials.
Yeah, so maybe we just put definitions.
well, it does
Yeah,
say in
definitions.
a driveway, so, it's construction of a driveway, okay, as opposed to maintenance of a driveway.
Yeah.
Okay, but,
Repair, maintenance, or resurfacing an existing sidewalk, walk, or driveway is an exempt activity.
Okay. So-
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Great.
So now, do you need us to, I mean, I think we already approved once to,
We're fine, yeah. Yeah.
okay, good, to have that go.
Yeah.
And that letter is going to, do I need to sign it, or are you signing it, or how does this, I just trying to figure out,
It's going to go, as you indicated in the letter, that it's going to go as a red line.
Yep.
So it's going to come as a red line out of my office.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
okay,
As the planning board's
submissions,
yeah, feedback.
feedback, right, yeah, that's good.
And
In response.
so when is that letter, you have that letter drafted now?
No, it's not going to be a letter, Bruce. It's going to be basically the current local laws
Yes.
Marked up.
in a red line form. So you'll look at them and you'll see proposed changes. And the idea being that what we've done is, we really haven't done a lot of what I call major, like substantive changes. A lot of it is restructuring, clarification, and to try to put that in one letter.
No, oh, yeah, that's
So
right.
what you'll see is the zoning local law, basically in like a red line form with a guide, just, what's out, what's been moved, and we're trying to make it as user-friendly as we can, that's going to be sure.
Good,
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Yeah, for
that's
everybody.
always appreciated.
Yeah.
But we're kind of bound in a way by because some of these chapters, cross paths with other code chapters, but what's in the public notice that's what we're doing, right? Just what's in the public notice.
In terms of,
When you're checking definitions, for instance,
Right.
you want to know that they're consistent with what else is out there.
right,
When you're checking for enforcement, you want to know that it's consistent with the other chapters. They aren't doing it. These things were, because I took some time to just say, okay, let me see what's in the public notice, because that's where if we're commenting about anything else, which wouldn't be a bad idea, especially if it's inconsistent with what is happening, right now, what's being reviewed.
right.
So,
But the public hearing was noticed, it's sort of an omnibus public hearing on all of the town code changes. So we're not strictly talking about zoning, we're not strictly talking about the subdivision regs, or the subdivision chapter, or the wetlands chapter. All of those are before the town board, and they were referred to us kind of collectively. So the planning board's coming back, not with just the zoning piece in red line form, but a red line of excavation, the
well, that's a new one,
sidewalk,
right? And a new one, and steep slopes.
the wetlands, the steep slopes. Yeah,
Sidewalk.
you're gonna, and they will all be
Lighting.
redlined off of the local laws that were introduced by the town. board.
Okay.
So
And that's specifically what the town board wants to look at.
yes,
Those particular laws, not anything other.
no, right.
And from what I remember, I believe we looked to consistency also.
Right,
And they are consistent with what the town board is looking at and what we looked at, it's consistent amongst all.
yeah, I mean, that was part of
Yeah.
the exercise of doing this
Yeah.
page by page, was to make sure that if something's referenced, say in the zoning code, but it's referring to
The
what's going to
building.
be steep slopes or excavation, that gets referenced, and that we don't have chapter 220 saying one thing and 187,
Exactly.
we're just trying to meld it as best we can.
And the building official or building inspector, we use building inspector because in some cases they were using another term. And we
Building
cleaned that up.
department
Yeah.
versus building inspector
Yeah.
versus, yeah, so there was,
So there's cleanup there.
yeah, so we went through quite a bit of this. Okay, so that's the plan.
That's the plan.
So, And I think you were asking, it's February 10th is the work session.
Is with the town.
The town's work session,
Right.
yeah. Okay.
And that's a work session with,
So
So when do you need it?
So I've been asked to be there. Christian Gates from my office, who's been working to put the local laws together. Valerie Monastera, I think will attend. I've suggested that at a minimum, Jan and Jan should be there as well. The issue is we have everyone here. We run into open meetings issues, but that's why I think this 2-week period between Friday and the 10th will give everybody here the opportunity to read through. And Charlene, you're invited too.
No, that's, no, I know, it's an open meeting, and that's okay. I sat at the thing, somebody else wants a chance of sitting with the town board. More power to them.
Right.
Didn't take it that way.
so Friday, the red line's going to be done, this Friday? is that what-
It'll go out by email, yeah.
It'll
To the
come by
town
email.
board,
So have you gotten onto your email yet? Have you
No.
been able to?
I'm
Okay.
working it through with Joel.
Okay. Well, I don't,
It'll get.
It'll get there?
I'll-
Okay.
I take full responsibility.
if you have specific questions, I think we can try here too. Okay. The other thing on the agenda that was listed, is to talk about the fee schedule. So what we have to do, we now have a steep slope permit and an excavation and fill permit, and I think we ought to recommend those, something for those. We have a new sidewalk and we have a new lighting code, but I don't think either one of those has their own permits, right? So I don't think we need to do something for that. And we have been talking for a long time about a extension of time request permit fee. Not a permit, but a fee for an extension of time request. Because it still takes some time, for our staff and for us to handle. So those are sort of in the middle section. But while we were doing that, just almost to try to figure out how to fit it in and whether it made any sense, I thought it was helpful to look at the whole list of all the fees that we have. And I believe these are all our codes, planning board, wetlands, stormwater. The building inspector, I think, is taking in a proposal for changing some of the building fees. And I don't know if that was considered at all or not by the town board. So, the other thing is, just so you know, that this, the current was established, I think Kirsten distributed the forms that say 2017 on it. So there's been some inflation since then. So whether, and how it got to 505 and 255, and whether we want to do something that makes just a little more sense.
They are smart numbers.
And so.
That's Amy Hodges.
Yeah.
Why it's 205 and
I
for whatever reason, I can't remember why.
Are these numbers based originally on what the reasonable amount of time to actually support these efforts was? Or were they just picked out of a hat?
I can't tell you that. I did go and try to look at, I had looked at Bedford, North Castle. I looked at 5 different towns a couple years ago. And I went back and tried to update and see, and it looks like people are actually updating their fees kind of every couple years, just to kind of catch up. And it's been, if you look at the inflation since 2017, officially it's somewhere close to 30%. I don't think we ought to recommend a 30% increase. We might get rode out of town. But I think we could probably, and the towns, the different towns are all over, like, Bedford has a $500 extension of time request. North Castle looks like they have a $200 extension of time request. And that's one where you kind of have an idea what an extension of time request is and how it can be so different. I can't tell you. So I don't think they're really based on an estimate of the hours, but
So do you want to just go line by line?
do you, well, I think yes, I think we probably should, but I think the most important is to start with the 3 NAs, and then we can go up to the top. I think administrative fees, those are probably, yeah, and they look pretty similar to ones in North Castle, actually.
Probably because we developed both lists.
Yeah, that's what I sort of figured, so I
This
said,
one goes back probably 2014 or something like that.
yeah, so some of these are pretty old, but, so an extension of time request, oh, and I did find one that was started at 200, every additional one was 100 to a maximum of $1,000 in a year, and I'm going, we don't get that many, I don't know how you get that many extension, unless you're coming in for, give me a month, give me a week, I don't know, so I think we had sort of said something to make it, I mean, again, you think about the people like Golden's Bridge that were kind of coming in and they really,
So from administrative, it's putting it on the agenda, getting it organized, and then rewriting the new date.
But it's twofold, it's incentivizing, get your,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
get
Yeah.
going, get it done.
Right.
and I think the other, so, I mean, we might want that to be like 200, what? 300?
300.
I
I mean, this is like, we're just like,
it's like, yeah, what,
Well, you said, so basically between 200 and 500 is kind of what, right? Because you said Bedford
so
was,
250 is.
Armonk was 200 and Bedford was 500 or something?
those are two I found. North Castle was 200 and Bedford was
This is
500.
the
Okay, so
extension
300
time.
sounds
Oh,
good.
extension of time.
What?
Yeah, 300 seems reasonable, right in the middle of that,
Yeah, well,
in kind.
the question is it more than coming in with a new plan? I guess,
Well,
you know, if the wetland permit goes up to 300, I guess that would be okay, because then it's equidistant whether you come in and
and 250?
250.
Okay.
Everybody okay with 250?
Is it the extension of time?
Yeah?
Yeah.
That would apply to all permits, right? All types of permits?
Yeah.
Because right now, I just asked for the administrative permits. You could collect on that as well, I would imagine. So if somebody comes in and requests an extension of their administrative wetland permit or their town stormwater permit, would I direct them to Kirsten to, because I can issue those administratively too, the extensions. Would I direct them to Kirsten to supply a fee before we?
But do you charge for the, like escrow account for
Not on the
administrative?
administrative, no.
Not on the administrative, so yeah.
Yeah, then, yeah, have it done
Yeah,
for
but-
everything.
But I'm
There's
kind of
still-
looking,
There's coordination with the town as well, so I mean,
Right.
I think it would be justified.
yeah,
Or
These-
talk to
these
Kara
are-
about
That
the
wouldn't
administrative
come,
ones.
yeah, and that wouldn't come to me, the extension, it would go to the town.
Right.
Right,
Because there's back and forth with the building department processing fees, I think it would be.
yeah, that's good.
yeah, the question I have is, since a lot of the administrative fees are only 150, are you worried about having an extension of time that's, might be higher than
Kind of,
Maybe extension of time needs to go down to match the 150.
or admin extension of time is
Yeah,
100?
if you do.
Break it up.
admin extension
you could do
time,
that because you don't
make
have to
it
come in
equal
front of the board.
To 150.
Right, because they're still coming.
The building department has a pretty hefty fee for extensions of times. And if you got a building permit that included all of these permits, now we're going to go back down to each one of these permits, and they're going to be paying for,
But they're separate permits.
pardon?
They're separate permits.
I don't see the building department having an extension of time. That's one of the things I looked at. I don't,
I
I
mean,
think
typically they do, I mean,
I think they do, but I think it's
don't
like
know.
$50.
All right.
I feel like I saw
All right, so let's make the admin extension of time 100. Is that okay?
Isn't the building department proposing fee changes?
Yeah, they are.
Shouldn't we take into consideration what they're going to change to in what we're looking at?
We did have some of theirs, I mean, they had actually proposed some of the things for us, and their recommendation, or one of their things, was to make an extension of time request, our extension of time, 250, as it turns out.
Oh,
I believe that, and I could be wrong, I believe the building permit extension of time is significant.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
I think it's significant, and I think that Kevin is actually asking the town board to reduce it because he thinks it's too much.
Oh, okay.
So I bet there is another fee schedule that just deals with the building department that we don't
Yes,
have.
it's like 50% of the original.
It's
fee
some-
or
it's
something
something
like that.
really-
It's-
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then what he also does, and a lot of towns do this, and the board might want to think about it, with the wetland permits is, if they're doing something in violation, and they say they're building an addition,
Right.
no permits. When they're caught and they're asked to submit a building permit, it's double the fee as their penalty. I was thinking, that's in place now, and a lot of towns do that, and I think it works well. Since the planning board isn't, it's a tough situation where you're assessing like a civil penalty and the board on wetland permits, and wetland violations. You try to get them to do the mitigation as much as possible, and then we're trying to like figure out the civil penalty at the end. Maybe you do the double the wetland permit fee, and then it's like you don't even, it takes like that discretion out of it. It's just like,
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put that in a schedule of fees, though.
No.
I would just keep that as kind of an
Back,
operating,
yeah.
as
Okay.
the way, when we deal with fines, to keep that in mind as a guidepost, yeah.
So the difference would be if, when they come in for a wetland violation, they would still get just the ordinary wetland permit, and then we'd use that as a penalty instead of saying, you got caught, just double it, and then,
How can we do that?
No, well, your capacity or your ability to impose a fine that's just a measure of your discretion.
okay. Yeah, and that would give us,
It gives a,
it gives us
So, but
discretion.
I'm just saying,
A
in
basis.
terms of like trying to figure out, are we going to impose a fine of $200? Are we going to waive a fine? We've been waiving fines because of what people put into the property, and that's perfectly appropriate, but maybe going forward, you say, you know what, great, but in addition to what you've done, we're going to impose a fine of
Right.
X because this is,
and you have a basis there. You say, this is
Right.
what it was, this is it
I-
initially. and-
Okay.
I just
I have a
don't,
bit of a problem with that for like new homeowners that come in, that they didn't even know it was a wetlands.
Yeah, well,
And
that-
then you're, which is why we very often correct the problem, we waive the fee.
right.
And then hit them on top of that, I
But
would not be in favor of doing
But I think, but if you scheduleize or have something that's written in that
It's double.
that's just gonna happen, no matter what. Whereas now,
it's discretion.
We
It's
still have the
discretion.
Well, that's
ability.
fine.
Yeah, yeah.
If we're keeping it that way,
Yeah, yeah,
okay. I
and I'm just saying,
I thought we
yeah.
were saying, no, we're gonna,
I
No.
would
Okay,
say,
fine. I'm
yeah,
okay then.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. Keep it,
yeah, because the guy that comes in and clear cuts all the trees on his property,
Yeah.
him I'm gonna want to find.
Okay, steep slope permit.
So, sorry, but on the admin extension, you want to do 150?
150, 100, whichever you,
It's not going to go to our office, so it's for the, whatever, it's for the town to decide. But there probably should be a distinction because
right,
the baseline fee is less.
let's do it. How about 150?
Yeah, that's good.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, the other thing not to
This
think
is
about, this
the
is probably going to live,
administrative extension of time request.
so it's a new,
It's going to be 150?
yep,
Yeah.
250 for the, if it's a permit, and if it's administrative, 150.
So is 250 enough to be higher for, yep, okay. I don't really want to, steep slope permit.
Do they need a building permit as well? Right, for
It would
this?
depend.
It depends on whether they're building something,
There's
yeah.
no- Yeah, if it's a landscape project, it might not.
Okay. And that'll be the same for the excavation and fill permit then, right?
Correct.
Be the same, okay.
250 for each of those?
Yeah.
I don't know. These are only recommendations, the town board's going to have to decide, yes or no? So I would say let's start going up from there, like the stormwater permit, 200? I mean,
It's like even it
Well,
off.
hold on, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back to that fill and excavation permit for a second. So, they're getting a fill and excavation permit, oh, but once they cross 5,000 square feet, they need a site plan approval, right? Or they'll need a SWIP and they'll have to go through
Correct, so the
that.
fill and excavation permit that's adopted as drafted, if it's, you'll only see those if there's no other permits. Right,
Yeah.
it's just excavation and fill, that's the only thing they're doing. And it's over 60 or 100 yards or over 1,500 yards, right?
Mhm.
So, and I would think that in most cases, that's the only planning board permit that they would get because it's gonna,
Yeah, it's
the other
weird.
permits are gonna.
Yeah, okay, so
Yeah.
that makes sense, all right, that's, I'm sorry. Sure.
okay, so stormwater permit, I'm going up from these three NAs. Should we recommend 200 for that?
No, I would, oh wait, but this is,
I would say that the excavation and fill and the steep slopes, I believe they're both requiring public hearings. I'm just thinking of administrative time. Maybe there's a distinction between those that require public hearings and gives some time for noticing and those that don't. I don't know.
They can be waived. I just think like one set fee is
One set.
probably best, yeah.
It's the easiest, okay. Then just do 250.
Do we usually do it line by line to the town board?
These things?
Yeah.
I don't know why
Yeah.
you make it any different. I mean,
Well,
it's the same amount of
I don't
business
know,
time
because
regardless of
I
the
wasn't
time.
here the last time
Oh.
any of these were done.
My suggestion is that we set the ones that were not set before, and then we recommend that the town board look at the fees and raise them 10% or 20%, or say that, other places, we've looked at other places and they've raised it, their fees are up to 30% more. So maybe you would like to look at it, because once we get into that, we may not get in yours or singular new
I
ones.
think,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, and ultimately, this is gonna be the town board's call.
Right.
As a policy, so.
Right.
I think putting a number on those that have no number
Works.
works, but, and then suggesting, consider these were last set over, 8 years
Right.
ago, and, yeah.
Rather than go, because
Yeah.
it's not
Okay.
like we're doing it with a lot of knowledge, or I'm not.
No.
I speak for myself, I'm not.
No, and it's very hard, I have to say, to compare to some other towns, because some of them say, well, even on the excavation and fill, some were saying it's so much per cubic yard, and this, and different cash versus check, of cash versus credit, and, I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
stop.
And also with these, what's gonna happen, having worked with many boards, is they're gonna start discussing how much work does it take on the part of the planning board? Why are they, blah, blah. If you only have 3 to explain.
4 now, because administrative,
Right,
so,
yeah. If you have 4, those are, you can explain, this one is for the full permit, this one is the
Right.
administrative, and it's less work. And then you say, we would like, we would recommend that you look at the others because they have not been looked
Yeah,
at
and
for a number of
presumably all
years.
the others, that was taken into consideration back when these were set,
Yeah,
you would think, right?
well, yeah,
Yeah, so-
but,
Okay, so the right thing, I guess, is I would look for a motion to send a letter on behalf of the planning board asking for their consideration of 4 new fees, an extension of time request to the planning board, administrative extension of time request, steep slope permit, and excavation and fill permit at the stated amounts we have, which is $250 for everything except $150 for the admin extension of time request, and then a recommendation that they consider raising the other fees, which to our knowledge has not been changed since 2017. At least since 2017.
Yeah.
Or since at least 2017. All right, so I'd look for a motion to say that.
Go ahead.
John? Oh, Paul? Paul makes that
I have a
motion?
Motion, sure.
I'll second it.
And John seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so,
On the admin,
I
Kirsten,
cannot find
maybe the admin extension of time, maybe just in parentheses, you do wetland/stormwater, so it's clear
Singular.
it's, well, it's
For
for
both.
those are those permits.
you have to add it, administrative, you just add it. and then it's done.
yeah,
It's a new one?
Yeah,
yeah,
it's because it's less than the one that's required for the permit.
okay, so,
It's less than, because if the excavation permit goes administrative, or these go administrative, then it's 150.
Just so you're aware, when there's an application that has an escrow, our office doesn't collect any of the fees, they all go to the town. When it's strictly an administrative, there's no escrow, the town gets a percentage, small, and then we take the fee. But when there's an escrow, all the fees go to the town, whether it's
and then you
administrative.
charge against it and get paid
Yeah,
for your
so
time.
we get paid through the escrow, not the fee.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. And I don't think we need to put that in the memo to
No, I
them.
just
but
want for your
yeah.
edification.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah, I
2
just
sets of
think
minutes. I'd look for a motion to approve the minutes of November 12th, 2024.
I so move.
I wasn't here.
You weren't there, yeah.
I'll second.
And, okay, and Bruce seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And then I'd look for a motion to approve the minutes of December 17th, 2024.
That one I can do.
Okay, John says,
Those-
I second it.
Charlene seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The next meeting date is February 18th, 2025, not,
Yeah, really.
Time flies.
No, you've got it right. You've got it right. You've got it right.
oh, I had it wrong. Oh, that was an earlier version that I printed my thing off of. You're right. Okay, so now we can, and it's come back. We can adjourn the meeting. I'd look for a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:34.
Or we could wait till it turns to 19.
By Charlene moves, Bruce seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry. What is this administration?
The administration fee is